is, number one, it's your money. Am I correct? And this is government of the people, for the people, and by the people, not government of the government, for the government, and by the government. Am I correct? Something that we've been looking at and trying to get a handle on, and I'm scratching my head at, we're getting at the local level, we're hearing you. And that's why you're tired of watching the spending, the endless spending. How many of you have heard the word trillion more in the last 3 months than you've heard in your entire lifetime? And what I'd like to know that comes after trillion is, how about just no? But the James City County Board of Supervisors, I hear you, and I understand, and we have worked hard with the Republicans on the Board of Supervisors. We have reined in taxes, we have reduced spending, we've had a $10 million reduction in our budget. We have not passed that on to you, and that's important.
God bless America. I'd like to thank the William and Mary College Republicans for putting this on and giving us this opportunity to protest in the spirit of 1776. My name is Brenda Pogge. I'm a delegate to the Virginia General Assembly. I serve as a representative in the 96th House District, and I am very humbled to have the distinction that my district most closely represents the historic triangle in the House of Delegates. I am also humbled when I think about that distinction, and I'm humbled because I hold fast to the founding principles that were birthed right here in the historic triangle. You know, we heard a lot about hope and change during the election. Well, I think that we will be counting our change, but let's not give up on hope. But the original hope and change, that's what I want to talk about. The hope and change that inspired a revolution. The hope and change that were started with words such as this: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. These were the words that changed the world. This hope and change, the hope and change of that day, contrary to today, was based on the wisdom that our rights as free men in a free society were not derived from government, but rather that we were endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights. The hope and change of that day was to throw off oppressive government, not to embrace it. And that's the truth. We are beginning to embrace that government bestows our rights. We've lived in a free nation for so long that we as a people have never known what government tyranny is. Yeah, we know now. Let's go back to a time and listen to some men and some words that they had to say, the wisdom of the founders who experienced firsthand that tyranny. Let's listen to the generation that's been called the genius generation. The men who gave us our founding documents and delivered into our hands the greatest nation the world has ever known. It's said that when Benjamin Franklin was coming out of the Constitutional Convention, he was approached by a woman. And she said, "What has happened in there?" And he said, "Madam, we've given you a republic if you can keep it." Somehow we've managed to keep it for over 212 years, but I believe we're in a rough ride ahead. We're in for a rough ride. Benjamin Franklin was almost prophetic when he said these words: "This precious republic's travails will begin when factions of citizens," now listen to this, "discover that they may vote themselves largesse at the expense of others, and driven less by citizenship than by greed, blithely commence feeding at government's trough. Thus shall their votes be cheaply purchased by venal office seekers who value power above nobility." These guys knew what they were doing. They knew what they were talking about. They knew about tyranny, and they knew about the heart of man. Another quote. Since we're here in the Colonial Capital, having a colonial area tea party, let's look and see about hope and change and the thoughts of Thomas Jefferson. "When the people fear their government, there is tyranny. When the government fears the people, there is liberty." That's right. Our Constitution is based on this truth, and in it, we the people have set forth limits to government's power. But Jefferson warned of this: Natural progress of things is for liberty to yield and government to gain ground, and we have seen that over the 200 years. Our forefathers knew that there would be a constant struggle between big government and freedom. That was the biggest debate of their day in the writing of the Constitution. Another thought from Jefferson: the democracy will cease to exist when you take away from those who are willing to work and give to those who would not. This is what I love. Bill Janice was talking about 1765. Well, in 1765, and this one is just profound. A man named Richard Corbin, a member of the Governor's Council, said this when the House of Burgesses attempted to establish a loan office with a gigantic loan from Britain: to tax people that are not in debt, to lend to those that are, is highly unjust. It is, in fact, to tax the honest, frugal, industrious man in order to encourage the idle, the profligate, the extravagant, and the gamester. These guys could see into the future. One more warning from Jefferson: all tyranny needs to gain a foothold is for the people of good conscience to remain silent. But you know, his trust was in we the people, and it was strong, because he also said, whenever the people are well informed, they can be trusted with their own government, that whenever things get so